Welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast, featuring advice and interviews about athlete branding. Learn how marketing, public relations, and broadcasting can grow your brand. We also have special episodes to talk about recent news, events, and anything in the world of sports. The podcast is sponsored by Pliable, a versatile marketing, PR, and broadcasting company that identifies opportunities and creates tailored content for its clients. Now it's time to roll. Here's your host, Greg Glenn.
All right, and welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. Greg Glenn with you here for another great episode where we are going to be talking about high school sports. And we're going to be talking about building your athlete brand in high school and how that can help in the future of your career. And here to do that and help us today is someone I know extremely well through our work together with the Gaziano Awards, which is a lineman award created here in the state of Maine for the top high school senior linemen based on not only their performance on the field, but in the community and also in the classroom. It's Luke Libby. He serves on the committee. He was also an award winner of the Gaziano Award. And again, Luke, great to have you with us here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Excellent. And as we get started here, Luke, I want to make sure that people understand completely all the effort and attention that you guys have received over the years with the Gaziano Awards. This is really a unique tradition in Maine, but also across the country. This is the only kind of its award across the country. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it is a very nice award. You know, it's giving away $14,000 in scholarships to, 3 winners offense and defense, 2, head winners and 4 runner-ups. The award itself, started because, the family and friends of Frank Gaziano wanted to find a way to honor him, but also put the spotlight on high school athletes who did well and personified his characteristics.
Yeah. And certainly Jeff Kane and National Distributors originally starting the award. Now I understand that Key Bank has jumped in to kind of continue the tradition.
They have. So Key Bank and National Distributors are working together to keep the award alive, keep things moving forward to improve it. With COVID, obviously things are a little bit different. Traditionally, the award, everyone, and we still received all of the info we usually do, but they send in their, an essay that they write, the athletes, letters of recommendation from coaches, principals, and then they get all their grades, if they have SAT scores, things like that, all get sent in for eval along with game film. And we watch their game films, we evaluate that to determine, their ability on the field. And then we use the other data along with their hours they submit, what type of community service they've done to basically assess each player. The nice thing there is in the past, we've been able to do interviews with the players. Obviously with COVID, things have been a little different. So everything has really been done online, largely, but it's still been good. We've been able to continue forward and keep things moving.
It's kind of interesting too. I think it is one award where in many cases, these are seniors, they're all seniors, but they've kind of been through this process a little bit, I imagine, when you're preparing to, try and get into college. This is similar to that process for probably many of these student athletes, but it really is a good way to also prepare them kind of for their future and how they need to, present themselves or the information they're going to have to gather. They've obviously been through it, like I said, to try and get into college, but this is more than just, putting something together in an hour and doing that. I mean, that's pretty incredible what now obviously they can do too, especially with Huddle and all the game footage. That's unique.
Yeah, no, definitely there's a lot that goes into this. And for the players to submit their information, the coaches do help. But ultimately the player has to do their own research on the award itself and the background of it, just like you would if you were trying to go to college. You want to know about that school. Or if you're going for a job interview, you want to know about the place you're going to work at. You can't go in knowing nothing. They have to put together who they are, why they deserve this award. What makes them unique and special from everybody else who's applying, just like college.
Yep. Absolutely. And so one of the things that, we're seeing right now, especially with high school athletes, is with the new rules around name, image, and likeness in the NCAA. A lot of high school athletes are now starting to think about their brand a little bit earlier than they were before. And when you obviously were going through this process, you started to probably realize, wow, there's a lot to this. And I'm now, more in the media's eye, because you're going to be interviewed if you're the winner. You're obviously, building your brand around who you are. You're writing a personal essay. I've obviously heard many of these compelling essays. That's almost like a brand story in a way, is that you're writing your script of what you did. I mean, I've heard of people losing parents. We've heard of how hard you worked, the 6 a.m., at the gym. That's a pretty unique thing, to be able to write your own story. What was that process like?
For me, it was, I guess it can be challenging to determine what you want to say, because you only have so much time to put in what you want in so many pages, if you will. But it is a fact-finding mission for yourself in a way. You have to know yourself enough to be able to write about yourself and share that with someone. You have to present your case, your background, your personality, your character, what your foundations are for life. And I think it was good doing it at that age, because it was a step forward, a moment of growth in time in my life.
And I see that too when I work with athletes. They start to realize the same thing you did. It's like, oh, okay, I've got a story to tell here, and I'm starting to create a story for myself about what I'm going to do in life and what's important to me, what's been important to me, and what some of your passions are. One thing I really like about the Gaziano Awards is the element of community. That really plays a big role in how attractive you are to the committee, but it also applies in life. You've got to be a well-rounded athlete, in my mind, to have a good athlete brand. Talk to me about how important it was for you to be active in the community. And I know you went to Thornton Academy, where they have a very good long-standing tradition of being active in the community.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. It's a part of life. I mean, for me, giving back is very important. I've done well. I've been fortunate. I've been blessed, and it's gotten me far, and I want to be able to do well for other people when they're struggling or they need help. And that's always been something that's a big deal for me. So finding creative ways to do that, not just you coach some team younger than you. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's more that can be done. And if you really put the effort in, you can go to a soup kitchen, you can help someone mow their lawn, shovel their driveway. You can do things for elderly folks who, maybe you just spend time with them. People who are on their own. There's a lot of different things that can be done to make the world a better place. And that in itself will, round the sharp edges of anybody who's trying to grow up in life.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think that that's so important for high school athletes to hear today, because I notice it when we have all these Gaziano Award winners, and you look back at now over the 10-year history, and you think about the impact that all these winners have had in their communities, respectively, across the entire state. The positivity that has come from that is pretty incredible. So it's really a credit to this award and what has been done in this area. The one thing that I always thought about when it came time for the Gaziano Awards, which of course you and I worked together many years on the awards for the PR and the marketing, and and now a lot of what goes into that, which is great. I think that was a valuable experience.
It was.
And one thing that comes with that is that when you win the award, I would come up to the student athlete and I would say, congratulations. And I said, yeah, right over here, this is channel 6, channel 8, and 13. They all want to talk to you. and at that point, in many cases, that might be the first really one-on-one interview, or it might be the first time that individually you're getting asked questions. It's not so much about the team anymore, right? Because this is an individual award. Is that you now are in front of a camera, you're on, whether it's a radio show the next morning, that can be a lot. What was that like for you the first time?
Yeah, definitely overwhelming. I remember you coming up to me. And I'm like, who is this guy? What is happening? I'm just smiling and I'm excited I won, but I'm answering questions and I don't know who anybody is. And just trying to keep up with everything. It's definitely crazy. But the important thing is when you're in that situation, yes, it's about you at that time for this award, in particular for the players who have won it, but I'm always remembering where you came from, the people who helped you.
Yep.
Knowing that support system that was there, whatever it was for whichever person, ultimately, does count. And, that with your combined efforts is just amazing. And, you go in and you get to talk about it finally, which is very cool.
Yeah.
You get to sell yourself, if you will.
Yep.
So if you are trying to brand yourself, that's your moment to shine. Talk about something unique or, share a story that is memorable, that tells something about you.
Yeah, that was something I noticed that a lot of the athletes started to try and do or try and realize is that this was a moment. This was a defining moment in a way, because let's be honest, there's going to be future coaches that look at this. There's going to be maybe even future employers that find out about it because the award has become so popular. You can go back and there's archives on YouTube, of kids out there, when they were seniors in high school, and that stays with you. We know the internet's not going away. So
Nope.
it's really interesting to be able to see the growth of a student athlete when they have that opportunity. Boy, I bet you wish you probably had some media training back in the day.
I had pretty much none. I did all right. It wasn't bad. But that was it. Don't talk too much. Just talk enough to get you get your point across. And
get you by.
Everybody deserves it.
And two, we talk a lot about linemen, of course, with the award. Linemen don't get a lot of attention anyway.
No.
So
no, what's the ball? Well, what's that?
So it's not like, and you can imagine what must be for, a high school quarterback who's probably answering questions on, potentially once a week, twice, maybe in a month, depending on how games go. If you're that kind of player or you're the star running back, that's a lot more spotlight, and it would be great to be able to have media training. So that's one of the things that I've really been working on with athletes is providing that media training, because that is often sometimes the first impression that someone's going to get of you. That's what goes on TV. That's what that's available publicly, those radio interviews, that's what people hear. So that confidence level is really important, I find, as well. If you can really project confidence, I think that goes a long way, don't you?
Yeah, projecting confidence, but breathing is important. I think it's underestimated or unappreciated for some folks, but it's funny, you get into that spot, thinking back to all the interviews we've done together that you've helped set up with me and so on. You still get a little nervous for each one. And even though I've done so many at this point, it's still important to breathe. Go in, take a breath, answer the question, listen to the question.
Yeah, listen to the question, right?
Don't blank, don't space. Your brain does, just disappears and nothing enters your head. You gotta listen to the question and breathe. Those two things will get you a long way in an interview.
I like that. That's a good one. That's really good. So then let's talk about your career. So you go on, you win the Gaziano Award, and again in 2011 on the defensive side of the ball. And you're a great player. You went to Thornton Academy, had a great career there, and you make a decision not to play sports in college. Talk to me about that decision.
Yeah, so I did think about it. It was something that I had considered. Ultimately, I decided it wasn't worth it for me. I had chosen in high school to set my sights on becoming a dentist.
When did you know you wanted to become a dentist, Luke?
That started when I was in 7th or 8th grade.
Really?
It was actually because of
Yeah.
Paul Remus, who's
Oh,
orthodontist in Biddeford, but his kids played football for Thornton in the
okay.
junior league, and he was just a really nice guy. He would pay for some of the equipment for the kids. He's the one who made it possible for the kids to play football originally, with the help of other people. But
Right.
I thought that essentially, his character, his family life, and the things he was able to do for people was what set me on the path to being a dentist.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, so I guess that's where I set my sights after that. So I guess started that for me in a way, and then I went from there. But in high school, I guess in a way I didn't know for sure, but I was still leaning in that direction. And then when it came to, well, what are you gonna do now? That's what I stuck with,
Yeah.
and I did make it. I'm a dentist now.
There you go. All right. And
uh,
congratulations, because I know that's not an easy thing to do.
no, and I love what I do. It's
Oh,
a
that's
lot of
great.
work, a lot of effort, but I love it. But all the stuff I did with sports and all the interviews and dealing with the media, you're when you're a student athlete, and when you're somebody who becomes part of the community that people know, they see your face, they know who you are, at least you're familiar in some fashion to them. You're honestly, you're always being watched. You're watched on and off the field. That's something to keep in mind. What you do counts no matter where you go. And building from there, I took the lessons I learned in football, the experiences that I had with dealing with the interviews and meeting people, and that took me through college. There are interviews for going into college, and interviews for even just different jobs while I was working while I was in college, or trying to get different positions if you're like in student government. Those things all play in, and then going to dental school has its own whole set of interview
Yeah.
processes that you have to make it through too. So it all compounds on the last thing that you did, and I've learned something each time I've talked to someone, or I've built some new experience. It's just how it's been, and it's been great.
And then the other thing I think about too, for you as a dentist, you also are building your network. I mean, think about the impact that you've had, because now you're in the community where you essentially developed your brand, and that comes along with a lot of weight, because now you've got those relationships, you've built that brand. So when someone says, "Oh, Luke Libby, didn't he play at Thornton Academy?" Like, that's how it kind of hangs around, right?
It does. People still remember me. I not that it doesn't. I don't get hung up on that. I'm not living in high school by any means, but it is
Right.
nice to have some community recognition. It has helped me, get started.
Yep.
I don't work in Saco, actually. I work in Buxton, but I'm not real far away.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly people who know I am, and they found me, and it's kind of nice. You have those people you meet, and the people I have never met before, the patients who come in, and you develop that relationship, and their families come in, you get to know their families, little kids who start to grow up. It's cool. It's
Oh,
nice.
that's neat. I like that. The other thing I always ask my guests, because of course the podcast is sponsored by Pliable, a versatile marketing, PR, and broadcasting company. How have you been pliable, Luke, in your career, having to change or adapt? Anything that you can think of related to whether it's sports, whether it's your career, whether it's the pandemic, a way that you've had to adapt?
A way I've had to adapt. I guess if there's no specific way I've adapted to any situation. Everything that I've had to deal with, I think, for me, I've gone in with the mindset that nothing will go according to plan, and I have to be okay with having something not go according to plan. It's stressful, and things are going to change. And even though we have all these plans as individuals, how often, Greg, you have something planned and it just goes sideways. But that can be stressful, especially to a young student athlete who's picking a college, and that one doesn't work out, and it's their backup or something, or they just anything like that. Being okay with change, and being okay with things not going according to plan is part of life, and I've accepted that as as a truth, essentially. And it's gotten me through things. I know that something won't. And when that happens, I need to find a solution, whatever it is, and I'll make it through.
I like that. I like that a lot. What about if you could pass along, we're going to have a lot of, high school athletes listening to this particular episode, as well as parents that will listen. What piece of advice or pieces of advice might you give to a young high school student athlete right now who's either, participated in sports, but kind of like you might be preparing for their next step? They might know what they want to do. What would be some pieces of advice you could pass along?
Work hard, keep working hard. I know it sounds simple, but it's easy to give up. It's easy to slack off. It's easy to, not go to the gym or stay in bed those couple extra hours or not go to help that person because I don't feel like it today. Keep moving forward, keep pushing yourself, and things will get better. Things will get easier the more you do and the more you get used to.
I like that. That's cool. And then let's finish with this here today, Luke. Let's talk about the college admission process, right? So obviously you got dental school, you got all kinds of things you're doing. And you're still in the range. I mean, I obviously was a long time ago. I was, applying to colleges. So I like to talk to people that have been in it in this world. What are you hearing, or what were some of your challenges kind of applying to schools and getting stuff all ready? What were some of the things you didn't think would be as hard as they were, or something that came up along the way that was like different for you?
Honestly, one of the most important things when you're applying, doing things like that, is paying attention to details. It's very easy it's like they really don't make it easy. You go to do these applications, you go to submit everything, and you have to really have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. You have one little thing out of place and it feels like the world's falling apart and you got to submit some document you forgot to send in or whatever. So that is important, taking the time to step back for a second and come back to things later, starting early, not waiting till last second.
That's a good
as
one.
Easy as it is to procrastinate, and I am guilty of that myself. I have done my fair share of it. It is easier to start early and come back to something than to start late and not have time to look again, because it just makes your life so much less stressful and you're much better off not putting yourself through that if you don't have to.
That's a great advice. So look, I really appreciate you sharing that with our audience, because I think they'll take it to heart, and I think that they'll do great things with it, because as you said, you can't wait to the last minute. It never works out really well for anyone. I also want to make sure that people can get in touch with you. If you have contact information, social media, etc. Love to be able to have somebody. Maybe it is a future Gaziano Award winner, or maybe it's somebody trying to apply to dental school like you did. How could somebody get in touch with you?
Do have Facebook. I do check my Facebook Messenger here and there. So just my name, Luke Libby. You can look. I think my email is on the Gaziano website, which is just Gaziano Alignment Awards.
Yeah, we'll put that all up on the show notes. So we'll make sure everybody has that. So, well, like I said, Luke, I really appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes from today's episode and catch up on recent episodes at pliablemarketing.com. We also encourage you to share topics and guest ideas by emailing our production staff at pliablemarketing@gmail.com. We love hearing from our loyal listeners and athletes who want to grow their brand. So jump in and be part of the podcast, because that's how we roll.